Bashkawalik. My work as an intermediate artist has been my impetus for my personal awakening. Previously, my ubai, the Mayan concept for the self, was in a deep sleep, and I was living a double life. My transformation is a timeline of stories, like my grandmother's story, who at age 15 ran away from home and went into labor on a park bench in Juarez, Chihuahua. I never met my biological grandfather, who was of Yaqui descent. My keystone story is that of my parents, Armando and Esparza, who immigrated to the United States, married, and forged a happy life for my brother Armando and me in Las Cruces, New Mexico, the land of enchantment. My personal story, however, begins with music that pulls through my veins since birth. My career started in my parents' laundry room, where I pushed the limits of my top-of-the-line GE cassette recorder. And by age 14, I had a mildly lucrative mariachi music career and 2 very exhausted parents. Somehow I managed to keep up with my studies, and I graduated 8th in my class when I was 16 and recorded my first full-length album. At college, as a music major, I was even busier than ever, and as time passed, my mother's words to study music really started to make sense. So I switched and began a long, intimate relationship with the sexy VT100 terminal. This duality made me addicted to all things music gear and MIDI, musical instrument digital interface, the language between computers and synthesizers. And it also made possible a pivotal trip. Summer 1993, I found myself climbing Kukulkan and Templo de Guerreros in the ancient city of Chichen Itza. And time stopped. This singular jarring epiphany opened a portal to my indigenous ancestors. The Mayans, whose codices date back to the 3rd century BC, created the only true written language native to the Americas, and 69 Mayan languages exist today. The Maya were expert mathematicians, astronomers, artists, architects, farmers, calendar pioneers. But my favorite was their discovery of the cacao tree, which they believe was a gift from the gods of chocolate, Ekchua and Ixcacao. But alas, this trip had to come to an end, and my dual life resumed back at home. But later that year, my 20-year overnight success finally happened, and I signed with the largest Latin music label at the time. My dreams were becoming a reality. So I rode this roller coaster for 5 years of Billboard hits, awards, tours around the country, US and Mexico. But it all came to an end one night when my manager slammed me against a wall, held me in a chokehold, irate because I hadn't lost enough weight. I don't know how I allowed this to happen, but that year I summoned all my courage and performed what some might consider career suicide. I abandoned the large label and started a small one of my own, and let me tell you, it was not easy. But with the help of my soulmate Paul and my family, I unearthed my ubai at last and welcomed a calmer, more centered me under Revolucion music group. I carry with me always the Maya culture and the supermom philosophy of the Mayas. Supermom Mayas include their children in everything they do, and I try to do the same thing. Surprisingly, however, they don't have a word for stress. Now, I can't say that I live a stress-free life, but what I can say is that my work now is more meaningful than ever. Recently, I released Fronteras, my 9th album, and I included both digital, acoustic, and MIDI instruments at will. My palette now includes not only music, but also video, animation, performance art, ceramics, visual art, and all sorts of nerdy techie media. And I'm having a blast. So now, a new cycle of the Mayan calendar begins, and my generation passes on the baton to the next generation in hopes that they will continue learning about all cultures and weave their own tapestry. Junta a mauusuk ta'ana obi. One language was never enough for me. I had to go back in time in order to move forward. And now my Yaqui and Maya culture are now part of the Mexican-American me. 3 cultures merged. And I no longer live a double life. I am a proud Mexican, Yaqui, American, musician, computer geek, Mayan supermom. The Dios Oti. Thank you.